Thank you for joining us. I wanted to clearly understand how are you dealing with the macro and microeconomic disruptions that are happening not just in India, not just in Asia, but globally. Because ultimately you want an ROI, and how does that happen in such an environment?
Yeah, actually 2019 was a difficult year in automotive, in China, in Europe, and especially in India.
Right.
We, as the overall market, we suffered a reduction in turnover compared to previous year. However, we see in every challenge, we see also opportunities. So we use this time to prepare ourselves, to extend our product portfolio for the future challenges. The electrification, this is one big driver of the transformation in automotive.
Right.
We are preparing for that, but we do not wait for that. We still are working hard to improve efficiency on our products, especially to improve CO2 emissions. This is with start-stop, where we are market leader globally. Start-stop, very important to improve CO2 up to 8% CO2 per vehicle. India is a market to come. In Europe we have 90% take rate of start-stop, and we improve the efficiency of our generators, also reducing CO2 of the vehicles. So do not wait till electrification, but prepare the path to that. It will not be a disruptive change.
Right. So what you imply basically is a seamless transition is far better than a disruptive manner of approaching things, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. What is the focus in terms of the portfolio mix? How are you catering to different segments?
So we, as I said, we improve our current portfolio, starter motors and generators, to reduce CO2 emission, and we are preparing for electrification in two fields. There is a mild hybridization, 48 volts, where we are in mass production. This is a great way to further improve up to 20% CO2 on a passenger vehicle.
Right.
And our team in India, and I think Anil Kumar, who just joined,
right,
is the right guy to share this.
Right.
Because SEG in India is the front runner in our company for electrification, for light mobility.
Right. I just pass on the same question to you. I asked him about how do you as a business, when you're looking at an ROI, deal with the market where not just an Asia slowdown, but it's a slowdown on a global basis. So how difficult or easy is it to operate in such a scenario?
Yeah, for us in SEG India, we look at every adversity as an opportunity.
Right.
Okay? And even though the downturn of 2019 was quite heavy, we did not stop our smart investments in expanding the existing product portfolio.
Right.
While we look at ramping up the new fields of electrification. Electrification will certainly come, but of course, as Mr. Kuppel mentioned, there is a coexistence of IC engines along with the ramp up of electrification. So what did we do in India? We continued our investments, as I said, to support the OEMs, of course on BS6 and further into the CAFE NOx. So it is with new technologies of advanced start-stop along with high efficiency generators and also hybrids in certain cases where it's applicable, where we make the IC engines more efficient.
Right.
So that's on one side of it. The second side, last year we started off with light electromobility, that is more for the two-wheelers, the three-wheelers, and we're already into SOP on the e-rickshaws last year. So we do not want to get a product that is similar to that exists in the market. So as a technology innovator, we have gone for better products. For an example, for the e-rickshaw, the current technology in the market is BLDC. But we have come out with the technology of TMSM, which is far more efficient than the current products. We are also bringing in more reliability and global standards of quality and safety.
Right.
So this makes us a notch better than the rest in the market, where we have a value proposition for our customers. So the SOP has already started for the e-rickshaw. We don't stop there. So we are going ahead with the higher versions that takes care of the e-auto, as well as the two-wheelers, where the SOP is going to happen in the second part of this year. So in short, answering your question, we are quite upbeat that the future is going to be great and the economy, of course, will recover. And we are fully prepared not only for the conventional products but for the future of electrification.
Right. A question to both of you. When do you see a tipping point in terms of a reversal of trends? Easier said than done, but there has to be a game plan in place. I'm sure you do have. When do you see that tipping point coming in for the global business perspective as well as the India market perspective?
See, the tipping point, I think I would like to switch this into two parts.
Right.
The IC engines in India will, of course, globally, of course, Mr. Kuppel will talk, but the IC engines will coexist with electrification on the passenger cars.
Right.
Electrification starts more rapidly in the light electromobility.
Right.
And the answers to this, or the question that would come, is for the passenger cars, there are a lot of hurdles that needs to be passed before it becomes across the board. Be it in terms of environment, be it in terms of total cost of ownership.
Right.
Whereas when you look at the light electromobility, in both cases it is favorable. For the environment it's favorable because the battery capacities are smaller, and in terms of TCO it works. So what I would see is the rapid increase in the electrification of three-wheelers and two-wheelers first in India, gradual migration to electrification in fast cars, starting off, of course, with the fleet being electrified first, but the personal mobility is going to take a longer time.
Okay.
So this is what I would put the market of the future in India to be.
Right. You would like to add to it?
And on the global level, like Anil said, we don't expect there will be a tipping point. It's a gradual development. I think it's common industry understanding that by 2025, 85% of the passenger cars will still have a combustion engine. 60% like they are today, and then 25% hybrid or strong hybrid, mild or strong hybrid vehicles, and only 15% are expected to be electric vehicles. Major markets will be China, surely, and Europe, and then especially there are some specific countries.
Right. How are you adding to the vendor level efficiencies in all your respective markets, even in India, for the tier 2 and tier 3 level? How are you adding to the vendor level efficiencies? Because it's not easy to scale up your vendor level efficiencies. It is not a overnight process. It takes a lot of effort and a time span to be allotted to it. So how do you look at that?
See, we have very strong systems already existing with us, and we have a history of over 100 years of being in the conventional products.
Right.
So our release processes of the suppliers are very, very strong. Having said this, the important point is just not about systems and processes.
Right.
It's about competencies. So the key point what we are focusing is how do we qualify or re-qualify, first of all internally, and secondly the vendor base.
Right.
And that's the key focus right now that we are on the task. And this is what I go back to my original statement. Every adversity has an opportunity. When the downturn was there, we used the time to reskill.
Right.
And that's precisely going to help us in the medium long term.
Right. To sum it up all, your growth areas and challenge areas, I know it's a constantly evolving process, but in this kind of an environment, I'm sure the outlook has reduced from a 5-year outlook now to people talk about 3 years as a long term. Even lesser. So what are the growth areas and challenge areas, globally, India-wise?
Well, the growth areas are still improvement of efficiency. So in start-stop, we further improve our products. The generators, we further increase efficiency. In Europe, there are eco credits that even support, from a legislation point of view, the introduction of these components. And then, of course, the step-by-step electrification Anil has described in all the sectors, from two-wheelers, three-wheelers, passenger cars, up to commercial vehicles, from mild hybrid to strong hybrid, and finally full electric.
Right. Could we look at the higher levels of hybridization and electrification in the higher tonnage pure CV segment? Something like an MNHCV space. Could is that in the near offering? Because we already hear of electrification in the ICV segment. Anything for MNHCVs in particular, or maybe even the ICVs?
I see electrification for commercial vehicles first place for the last mile delivery.
Right.
Smaller trucks.
Right.
We even imagine that there will be full electric vehicles, maybe even based on 48 volt systems, which are very cost effective. The long haul electrification and even off-road will take a while. And I guess in India it's the same.
Right.
Yeah, agreed with Mr. Kuppel on that. Just I want to add a little bit. Hybrids can still be explored as an option for long drives because it can augment the engine power
Right.
with its electrical power. So this is one part. And second one, of course, the battery may not be an ideal solution for its use.
Right.
So we need to look at alternate technologies emerging like the fuel cells.
Right.
So in the new company of SEG Automotive, which of course has a long history, we are very actively monitoring the markets and we are quite agile to look at it and get into opportunities as we...
Since you touch upon fuel cells, what about the fuel cell infrastructure, the fuel stacks and the electrolyzers? How is that a teething issue at the moment?
See, today fuel cells are not competitive. And due to the reason, production of course is critical. Second, distribution is even more a bigger challenge. And the cost of the system is too high. But as we go into the future years, a lot of investment has gone for the development of fuel cells. We need to see how it pans out. But it is, of course, an alternate for the heavy-duty vehicles.
Right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.